Which war did you serve?
World War II.
What was your branch of service?
Army soldier,
What was your highest rank?
private first class.
In what general locations did you serve? In other words, when you were with the 75th Infantry Division, stateside, Missouri?
Yeah. I formed the 75th Division up in St. Louis there. Yeah.
Was that the only place in the United States that you were?
Except on maneuvers.
Where did you hold maneuvers?
I believe down in the southern states.
Okay. And then the other part was you went overseas to England first and then across to the continent.
Well, what happened, they brought in a lot of men from the Air Force and made them infantry, and then they shipped us overseas as replacements.
Yep.
So we landed in Scotland and in England, and then when we went to France, that's when I joined the 75th Division, the 35th Division.
Okay. Good stuff. We'll get more into that later. Now let's change. Let's go back to your high school days. Take you back to Lynn, Massachusetts.
Lynn, Massachusetts, Lynn English. And
you and your good buddy, John Noonan, were in your senior year of high school.
Right.
So I think that was what, in like November 1942.
Right. And if you were joined the army, that they had the draft. If you listed in draft, they brought up the papers from the high school to your mother, all right? And you graduated. They gave her the diploma.
Okay. So you could enlist. You can volunteer to enlist.
When they had the draft, you could volunteer to be drafted. So John Noonan and I volunteered to be drafted. And they said if you go in now, you get 2 weeks after training. If you go, but if you don't go in, you'll get 1 week. So John decided to go in. And I said, come on, John, come on home. He said, no, I'm going in now. Well, unfortunately, he was into the Air Force, and 2 planes collided, and he was sat over the gas tank. And I was told by another buddy that he was gone before that plane hit the ground because he sat right over the gas tanks.
Now, he was a radio operator?
Yeah.
Let me take you back a little bit. When you first decided to go in, into the Army, what were you thinking about the U.S. doing with Japan?
Well, what happened, we didn't like what Japan was doing. So the government refused to send them oil and metal, scrap iron and so forth. And that angered Japan. They thought we were interfering, so they attacked at Pearl Harbor. Right? And shortly after that, Germany and Italy declared war against us.
Yeah. And so that was the motivation for you guys.
Right.
Now, John went in immediately.
Yes, he did. I asked him to come home. He said, no, I'm going now. And he never made it home.
Right. Now, how did you feel when you found out that John had passed away?
I was very sad.
Did that impact your decision then to go into the Army?
No, I had made that decision ahead of time, and I asked John to come home. We both volunteered to be drafted, and then he said no, he was going in right then and there, and I back home, and then 2 weeks later I had to report to Boston.
Okay. Now, did you have a choice where you wanted to go in the U.S. Army, or did
No, you had no choice.
no choice at all?
No, no. But so they sent me to St. Louis, where we formed the 75th Division.
Correct. Now, in St. Louis, when you were out there, was that the standard boot camp training that they put you through?
I would imagine so.
So, I mean, they gave you a rifle and they said,
Oh, yeah.
go out to the range and
Yeah, shoot,
practice
yeah.
a little shooting?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, you also got into some intelligence training when you were in St. Louis,
Well,
right?
For some reason, they appointed, when I joined the Army, they gave you tests, and for some reason, they assigned me to S2. And then when I went overseas as a replacement, I bumped into this officer, and I asked him what he did, and he said he was the S2 officer. And I said, well, that's why I got my training in. And so he transferred me out of Company L to S2. And our job was to, view the people that we captured, try to get information.
So now when you were out in St. Louis in 1943, at the end of the year, Christmas time, holiday time, you could not or were not able to come home.
No, but I went to a local church, and there was a lady there that invited me to her house for Christmas. And so we went to her house, and we had Christmas there.
The young lady's name was Grace?
Yeah, I forgot her last name.
Sheev? Anyway, she wrote a letter to your mom.
Yeah.
And talked very highly about this young fellow by the name of Bill.
Yeah. She was very nice to us.
Yes, yes.
As I said, I went to Mass, and she was there, and she took me home for dinner.
Yep. She treated you well.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Bill, let's go back just a little bit to St. Louis, 75th Division. What was your information on other Air Force people coming in and getting put together with the Army soldiers?
I don't know. Maybe the Air Force was overcrowded, so they took all these Air Force people and made them into the infantry.
Okay. They gave them a rifle.
Gave them a rifle, the uniform training. That was it.
So that was like in early 1944.
Yeah. I think a little before that.
So you had some training together with the Air Force boys?
No, they shipped us overseas as replacements.
Okay.
So we went to England.
So this probably took place like what, in May of 1944? When you were shipped over to England?
Yeah, about that time.
Okay. Now you arrived in Liverpool, England.
Yeah.
How much time did you have before you had to go on across the channel?
Well, probably a few weeks.
You had a couple of weeks to...
A couple of weeks. And shortly after that, they had D-Day. I missed that, but they shipped us over to France shortly after D-Day, and there were still bodies floating in the ocean.
Now, one of the things that they did to you when you got into overseas to England, you were changed in assignment. You went from the 75th Division to L Company 35th Division.
Right.
So how did you take that good news? You were ready to go.
Yeah. I knew I was going to go sooner or later.
Yeah.
So we were ready to go. So
right then, it was a couple days after D-Day, you went on the landing craft?
Landing craft, right.
How long did it take you to go from Liverpool to Omaha Beach?
Not long at all.
All within that one day?
Maybe, maybe a few hours, you know. Time you left the base camp and got down to the not the airport, but the ship port. And across to France.
So you went across to Omaha Beach.
Right.
Now, what happened with the German defenses? Were they still expecting you, shooting at you?
Well, when we landed on the beach, there was a German airplane that started strafing. And I didn't smoke. My friend was smoking. I said, "Give me one of those." So, but he got chased away, so we made out all right. And we walked in. First battle was at St. Lo.
Right. So how did you get, did they send a Jeep for you to pick you up once you arrived on the beach? Or did you have to walk all the way to St. Lo?
Oh no, once you went on the beach, you didn't send a ship, you walked. There's still bodies around.
Yeah. So you basically walked down to St. Lo or the 35th?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now at St. Lo, then you got right into the fighting.
Well,
that division was.
Right, it was shortly after that. And I remember the Germans aircraft coming and strafing, right? And I think Ernie Pyle was there interviewing, and they were strafing. And I can remember they used to have the Polish people making a fight, and at night the Polish men would say, "I love you, sweetheart," so we wouldn't shoot them. You know, the Germans stood back of them and said, "You don't shoot, we shoot you."
So these were the conscript soldiers that the Germans used.
Yeah, they escaped as soon as they could. And in order not to be killed, they used to yell, "I love you, sweetheart."
Yep. Yep. Now, St. Lo was also a very strong defensive position for the Germans.
Right.
Right? So the Allied forces had a very difficult time in that area.
Oh, yes.
Now, there were two situations that there at St. Lo's. Number one, you had the hedgerows.
Right.
And then, I should reverse that. The first thing were the bombers, the U.S. bombers.
Yeah.
They came over en masse, a lot of airplanes.
Right.
What do you recall about that situation?
Well, I was happy to see them because I know that they would wipe out a good portion of the German defense.
Right. Now, but wasn't there also a situation where they released their bombs earlier?
Earlier, they nearly wiped out the 29th Division.
There you go.
Yeah. Things happen, accidents happen.
Yes. But anyway, then the hedgerows, can you describe what they looked like?
Oh.
It wasn't a simple row of shrubs along the highway.
No. It was, hedgerows, something like the things you put on your front lawn to stop people from trespassing.
You had high mounds of dirt, right?
Yeah, right.
What do they call it, burrs?
Yeah.
On which they planted the bushes, so it wasn't easy to see the enemy.
That's right.
Now, the Americans had a solution to that, though, right? You remember?
Yeah, they sent in tanks with
They had
like a plow in the front. They mowed those bushes down.
They took the steel from the beach obstacles,
Right,
and they put it on front of the tanks.
right,
And then they went and dug openings in these hedgerows.
right,
And then when the soldiers were trying to get through these openings, the Germans were there waiting for them,
right.
right? Their machine guns started firing.
Oh, yes, they did. They were good fighters. I have a lot of respect for the average German soldier,
Yeah.
but their SS troops were bastards.
All right. Okay, Bill. Now, you guys got through St. Lo satisfactorily. It was taken over by the Allied forces. Your next engagement with the 35th was down at Mortain. It was a counteroffensive against some of the very best German units.
Right.
So you got to fight the best of the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
But you guys were successful.
Right.
You have any thoughts about that battle?
Well, I have a lot of respect for the average German soldier. He did fight for his country, but the SS troops, they were bastards. You know.
Not a very good reputation.
No. And the French girls, I can remember, we allowed the French troops to go through Paris first. And I can remember the girls were frightened. They would kick them in the belly.
Yeah. Oh, nothing ever is easy. So you then went south of Paris, and the Germans were still chasing you, and you got into a situation where the Germans were dropping mortar shells on you.
Right.
And what did you and your buddy decide to do?
Well, there's not much you can do except, escape, lay low.
Well, your buddy went into a foxhole
Yeah, we both.
feet first.
Yeah. I went in head first. Right. And
that made the difference.
right, he got hit, and I guess he made it out. I'm not too sure what happened to him afterwards.
But you also got hit with shrapnel on your leg,
That's right.
and then you went to a hospital.
Right. And I remember the first hospital I went to, the nurse came and brought us some whiskey. She, don't you guys say anything, they'll fire me.
And you also ran into a minister. You remember?
Oh yeah, when I was first wounded, I had to go, they put me down the nearest, not a hospital, where they, what do you call it, I don't know, advance.
Field hospital.
And the priest, I think it was a priest, said to me, "Can I take care of you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he took a pair of pliers and he pulled the shrapnel out of my leg.
He pulled the shrapnel, the nurses wrapped you back up and said, "Get out of here."
Right.
Now, the 35th Division, or this experience, this situation, they awarded you the Purple Heart for that, right? That was your first Purple Heart.
The first Purple Heart. I can remember that. We jumped. My buddy and I jumped into an empty hole, and I went in head first, and he went in feet first, and I got hit in the leg, and he got hit in the neck, and I never know if he ever made it.
Yeah. Now you didn't see much of Paris because that was given to the Free French Army.
Yeah, we went right through it.
You
really.
drew right through it at nighttime, so nothing to talk about.
No.
How many times did you run across General Patton, the commander of the Third Army?
Oh, a couple times. One time he was directing traffic, and there was a ship, not a ship, but a truck blocking the highway, and he called some soldiers over, and they pushed it off the street, so that the ships, not ships, but our trucks could make it through.
So from Paris, basically, then, or that area, you went eastward towards the Belgian border, the German border.
Right.
And you came in an area called Nancy, or Nancy, and there was a town by the name of Metz.
Yeah.
You guys must have been marching along single file.
Yeah.
Because when you got close to Metz, you had another experience with the fellow that was in front of you, a soldier in front of you, the bullet coming.
Oh yeah, I remember. We was going forward, and a sniper shot at his head, and it went in his helmet, and he came out the back, and never drew blood, and he sat down and cried. I remember that. I don't remember his name, but I remember seeing that. Very lucky.
That must have scared you the heck, or you were quite lucky.
Oh yeah.
So that was just a German sniper hiding off in the bushes somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. But
now we're going to go along a little bit towards the winter of 1944.
yeah.
And you were close to the German border, maybe Belgium. Gramercy Forest, does that ring a bell?
Who?
A forest, Gramercy, along the German border, where the ground was solidly frozen.
Yeah.
And you came into what looked like a hill, or a small circle of dirt, very frozen, and you and your buddy decided to dig, but you couldn't dig down with the spade because the ground was so solid. What did you guys wind up doing?
Well, it was a big pile of dirt. I remember that, and we dug a hole, and we hid in a hole, and then the German tank come through and rolled. The people used to stop at when we run, get their breath, they stopped. The Germans must have thought it was a headquarters or something. So they sent the tank through, and the tank came up and ran over and knocked down that pile of dirt. And I rolled over to one side, and my buddy, I forgot his name, rolled over the other side, and the tank come over and rolled right over it. And so we laid there until the tank got dismissed, and later that day, that night, we got out and we ran back into the woods where our soldiers were. And I bumped into a German soldier. He had a army uniform on, and we shot us. He was wearing one of our uniforms, and we shot at him.
So that you shot him, and
that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
So now after that experience, you went into Germany for a bit?
I don't know. I don't know if that was. Yeah, it must have been. Yeah.
You were apparently on a convoy on trucks.
Right.
And came by a spot where you saw a German soldier run into a barn.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we were on a jeep, and I went in the front door. A Frenchman told us there were Germans hiding there. So I remember I went in the front door, and my buddy went in the back door, and we captured the Germans. I think they were ready to be to surrender. But I do remember that I picked up a lot of pistols from them, and there was an Air Force base nearby, and one of the pilots asked me if I would sell him the gun. I said, sure. So I sold him the gun for the pistol for $100. And I ran back to where we were staying at that time. We were back off the line, and I got the rest of my pistols, and I went back to the Air Force, and I made $1,000. I sent the money to my mother.
So now, as you went along, this is roughly in November 1944. You were in the Rheinberg area, Germany.
Yeah.
And that's where you met an officer who was in charge of the division's intelligence unit. And you got talking.
Yeah. I asked the officer what he was doing, and he said it was the S2 officer. And I told him, oh, that's why I got my training. When I was with the 75th Division. And he must remember my name, because a few days later, he had me transfer from Company L to S2. All right? And our job was to, advance spying, and we had one fellow that spoke German in our company, and he would interview them, and he would look at their medals, right? And he'd admire them, And the Germans would smile, and they'd put the medal down the ground and ground his foot into them.
Good experiences. But now you got transferred to S2,
yeah.
And they put you on. They gave you an assignment going back to the front lines as a radio observation post.
Right.
And you spend 2 days all by yourself in a house in the basement. And then you got company. 2 officers showed up.
Oh, yeah.
And they saw. Go ahead.
They start crawling all over the German tanks out there. And I said, Jesus Christ, here it comes. And then the artillery came in. And that's when I got hit. I got hit in the shrapnel. They were stupid officers. I got in the shrapnel. I got hit in the mouth. I still carry the air. I was very lucky.
You were lucky in that sense, but you were also lucky in another sense, because at that same point in time, there was the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah.
In the Ardennes forest.
Well, we were in southern part of France, and the Battle of the Bulge occurred up, and I remember I was all dressed up in white to try to capture some Germans. And we got orders to pull out. I thought I was very lucky, and that's when we went up to Brussels.
So that was your second time where you were wounded and where you got your second Purple Heart.
Yeah.
When you left the hospital, you were looking for something. Remember that? Something that needed to be on your head.
Oh, yeah, I remember I needed a helmet because I had lost mine, and we were pulled into headquarters, and there was a helmet on a table there. And I said, well, he won't need it. He's back here. So I stole the helmet, and when I went back to the lines, I took the helmet off, and the name inside the helmet was Colonel Butler. I stole his helmet. I got rid of the helmet as soon as I could. We used to sing a song about Colonel Butler's troopers were riders of the night with dirty sons of bitches. We'd rather than fight. I didn't want to repeat that other word.
Very good.
All right.
All right, Bill, after the Battle of the Bulge, the German Western offensive had pretty much lost its punch.
Right.
Germany was pretty well done. So the 35th Division then just ran across the rest of Germany towards Berlin.
Yeah. I can remember we were sitting up in this house observing across, and I can remember at night the Germans didn't want to be captured by the Russians, so they would come over and there'd be hundreds of Germans parked outside where we were looking. We just took them prisoners.
And then ultimately, you were told by your senior commanders, go to the Elbe River and just park yourself there. Don't go any farther.
That's right. We were just waiting for the Russians to come. And the Germans didn't want to be captured by the Russians.
Right.
So they would come across, and the next morning there'd be hundreds of Germans parked outside where we were staying. And we just took them prisoners.
How long did you have to sit around and wait for the Russians to come?
Not too long. No, not too long.
So when you first saw that Russian, was it a truck, like an armored vehicle, and the soldiers stepping off?
Oh,
They wave to you guys and say, "Hi, buddies."
I can't remember ever seeing any Russians, though, to be truthful. But we were told not to go advance any further, and the Russians were the one that took Berlin.
Yeah. So ultimately, then after a couple of days, with having the Russians around, then you got to go back to France.
Yeah, I never remember really seeing a Russian. No, we were pulled back.
Yeah. So you went back to France, to Le Havre, or
To be shipped home. The war was over.
the war was over, and now the war was officially over when you were in Germany, I guess, right?
Right.
And then it was just a matter of
Right.
back to France.
We were shipped home to go to Japan, and I remember on the ship I went up and saw the old man, and I told him I had enough points to be discharged. He said, "Why didn't you say something back there?" I said, "Where are they, sir?" He said, "Well, they're in France." I said, "Sir, I'm halfway home."
Now, before you stepped on the ship and came home, didn't President Truman come over on a visit?
Yeah, he come over with Eisenhower, and we had a parade to Brussels, and I remember seeing the soldiers, and I think it was Eisenhower that asked me where I was from.
Yep.
I told him I was from Lynn, and I remember that.
Yeah, that was quite something for you as a youngster to see
Oh yeah,
General Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, Truman, all the big shots.
Now, one of the things that the questions are usually asked, what do you do in your spare time? What kind of entertainment do you have, or shows?
When we were pulled off the front to be replaced, I remember the I forget what they call them, CO or something, used to come.
USO.
USO. They used to come and they had entertainment for us. I remember seeing the entertainment.
Now, one of the other things that the S2 unit did, or your leader, your commanding officer, we don't have his name, but he goes by his nickname, the Deuce. And the Deuce wrote poetry.
Yeah, he wrote a poem about us.
Would you like to read just this one paragraph
Yeah.
down here about the kid from Massachusetts?
Yeah. I forget the deuce's name, but he was a good officer. This is Mac from Massachusetts, who always drove a car. He took to drinking liquor in a place he called a bar. We think we'll educate him, make his English fairly good. But Mac just kept on talking. We'd not change him if we could.
Thank you. That's great.
And sorry, I wish I could name those guys. I'm going to send that picture up to the association, see if they can name them for me.
Yeah, that would be good. So this is, now we're back basically in September, October of 1945, and the 35th Division spent 264 days on the front lines of the whole year. So you guys were always on the move, always fighting, always doing something. You went through 5 different campaigns.
Right.
Normandy, northern France, Rhineland, Ardennes, and central Germany.
Right.
And you got a whole bunch of awards, medals.
Yeah.
2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, 5 Battle Stars for 5 campaigns, Good Conduct Medal, Infantry Badge, Rifle Medal, American Campaign, Luxembourg Medal, World War II Victory Medal, French Legion of Honor. With all that behind you, you were discharged then on October 11th, 1945.
Right.
And when you got back home, did they have a big celebration for you, or were you just came quietly back home?
Well, I remember we came back through Boston and took a bus to Lynn. And I remember getting off the bus to Lynn, and a man was standing there, and he called over a taxi, and he said, "Take this soldier home." And he paid for my ride up to see my mother. She was happy to see me.
Super. Now, when you got back home, your father had lined up a job for you with Brinks.
Yeah. He had a job lined up, and I went down to the police station, and I had to get a gun permit, and the cop said, "I can't give you a gun permit." I said, "Why not?" He said, "You're not 21.
Does that still hold true today?
But that was the best thing to happen to me, because then I went to school, became a school teacher.
Yeah, the GI Bill gave you Salem State,
Oh yeah,
Boston College,
right.
University of Connecticut.
And they still take care of me, because I get a pension from the government because of my loss of hearing.
So you had 38 years as a teacher,
Yeah,
and then retired and moved to Englewood, Florida.
yeah.
When did you leave Florida to come to Connecticut? 2004 or 5?
4, I think, huh?
Oh, it was 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Okay. So anyway, you came back to the great state of Connecticut.
That's when I met Millie. All right.
Quite a young lady.
Yeah.
You've done well. Just to wrap it up, I want to say you certainly had a lot of experiences during your time with the 35th Division.
I sure did.
18 to 20 years old, that's marvelous.
Yeah. I remember I come back. I said before I couldn't get the gun from it, so I went to teach. Went to Salem State and Boston University to get my master's. I taught for about 38 years.
And you taught business?
Yes.
And computers?
Yeah. I taught computers. Yeah.
Well done.
The computer programming.
Right. So anyway, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
73 years ago. And thank you for taking the time to do this interview
Okay.
today.
Well, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
You've been a pleasure.